My understanding is that this is a work in bad faith. Simple, pure and simple. I was looking forward to meeting the minister here so that he can provide some information.
He promised that he would come, but I guess he couldn't catch the plane.
You see, the Constitution, in 2017, a CRC Act was enacted to allow an independent body to come up with a constitution, a draft constitution. The chairperson of the CRC, according to that act, was to be the Chief Justice or somebody elected by the Chief Justice, appointed by him. The deputy chair was to be appointed by the Minister of Justice, and they did. And the 9 other members were appointed by the President. And they're supposed to be people of integrity, honesty, and their loyalty and honesty is above board. So these people are appointed to run and to prepare the CRC document for the country. So we have a group of highly regarded and respected people to write a draft constitution for the country, because government cannot write the constitution. And I look at what they write in purely legal terms. When they talk about government, they talk about executive, and it's not. Government is the 3 branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. And none of those branches can write the constitution. The Constitution is our apex legal document, and in the hierarchy of legal norms, it sits at the top. So any document that comes after that has to be consistent with the Constitution, or it's null and void. It's dead on arrival. So when you prepare a document like that, it's a document of the people. So we prepare the document for us, for the Gambia, for the future generations. And we try to make it as impersonal and as stringent as we can to make sure that document lasts for a very, very long time. Take the American Constitution. It's 2.5 centuries old.
Absolutely.
There have just been a few amendments.
Yes.
So what we are looking for is a document that can stand the test of time. So that's why we don't trust the government doing it, because the executive will do something that suits its interests. The legislative will do the same thing. The judiciary will do. Say no, let the Gambian people write it.
So that hence the Constitutional Review Committee.
Exactly. And anywhere a constitution is done, it's done by, we call it an assembly, a council, a committee, whatever is written by the people, for the people. So that is why an executive has no business writing the constitution or editing it. And when this constitution was being prepared, it went through a very consultative and inclusive process. The CRC did their background work. They consulted everybody in the country. They went around the country to talk to the people in their bantabas, all over the country. They sat with the executive and discussed this. They sat with the legislative and discussed it. They sat with CSOs and discussed it.
Religious leaders.
They went to the religious leaders, Christian, Muslim, etc. Discussed with everybody. With the political parties, discussed with them. And then they went to the diaspora.
Yes.
So that everybody in the Gambian political and human context is consulted. So it's a document of the people, by the people, for the people. So the executive has no business sitting in its corner and editing that document and bringing it back to us. Well, because if they do that, they would adulterate the document and put in things that are in their interest, as we see in this document. We will come to those points. What should have happened was for them to submit this to Parliament. And Parliament goes through a perfunctory review. Because even Parliament is not supposed to modify this in a way that it alienates the people from their constitution. It shouldn't be done in a way that we feel that this is no longer ours. It should come back to us as a people to vote for it in a referendum, whether we accept it or not. But given the Constitutional Review Commission's work on this document, it is extremely well done. But the elephant in the room is the 2-term mandate that is there. That's why the government has been trying to kill this document from the time it arrived in 2020.
Let's go back to that, just to give a background. And people often accuse me of intervening at the wrong time.
Okay, that's all right.
But a background to that, because you said the term limit has been the problem.
Yeah.
And I want to bring the government, the cabinet paper on that, was that the term limit after that stage would have been unfair and discriminatory to the sitting president, whether it was Barrow or somebody at that time. It would have been unfair. And the powers that have been given for appointments and stuff like that, like the National Assembly, those are the two things the cabinet paper objected. I saw the cabinet paper, and I think I still have it. That was the problem. But now, they seem to be happy that the term limit is now, the cabinet is now comfortable with it.
Well, it's comfortable with it in the sense that for them the term limit runs from 2026. So the past two terms, the current one and the past one, do not count. So those have been taken out of the equation for them. So now what we're looking at, and Barrow himself, if you remember correctly, when he came in 2017, he said, I am going to make sure that nobody does more than 2 consecutive terms in this country. I'm going to lock the provision that the constitution can be changed to have a 3rd term, etc. He said that, and it was in his manifesto. So that was clear from the beginning. What has changed? What has changed? The trappings of power got to him. You see, when you take a document like that and you want to change it to suit your intentions, we start having what is this constitutional coups. We would have that constitution adopted now, and he would say, my term limit starts running from 2026. I have another 10 years potentially to run. Okay, and then sometime during the 3rd term, he would find a way of amending the constitution again and bring another new term. We saw it happen in Senegal with Macky Sall and before him President Wade. They did it. And ended up in chaos. In Guinea, Alpha Condé did it. And he ended up in a coup d'etat. In Cote d'Ivoire, Ouattara did it. Where are we today in Cote d'Ivoire?
Lost a lot of respect.
Exactly. And we've seen it all over the continent. And we end up with what? With coup d'etats, and we blame the coup d'etats, etc. But we are not looking at the causes of those coup d'etats, we're looking at the results. So to avoid those things is why we want to have this term limit, 1. 2, the other advantage of term limit is that it takes away impunity. When you sit there, you know that you have 2 terms, 10 years to go. After that, you are going, and whatever you do is going to be scrutinized, and you go to with a fine comb. And your ministers and other top civil servants that you appoint know that after that, they don't have any protection. They're going to have to account for what they did. Everybody starts behaving properly. The corruption is reduced significantly. If not eliminated, but it will be reduced significantly. You will start getting people of competence and integrity into the government, which we don't have right now. So you will have all of those things come in place, and that's good for everybody, for the government, for us. Because we do not want to see our heads of state and ministers or whatever being dragged before commissions and humiliated. That doesn't serve anybody's interest. But that requires you doing the right thing to avoid that happening. And that's what we are asking in this constitution. And in situations like this, President Barrow will be best advised to realize that his best interest is going by the will of the people and doing what is right so he can live and go enjoy his mansion in Mankamankunda and other places. Look around you. Why do you think that what happened to Jammeh, what happened to President Macky Sall and others, why do you think it wouldn't happen to you if you do the wrong things? Whether it's a UDP government, a GDC or whatever government, you will be held to account at one point or another. We have seen it in place. Take the example of Angola. Dos Santos thought he had entrenched himself and got his handpicked selection, and he left and he was dragged into parliament. Mauritania.
By the very person whom he trusted.
Yes, Mauritania, the same thing. So this thing, when they change the constitution, say that when the president resigns after some time, his term of office will be continued by somebody who is the vice president, or if he's not available, because the order of succession is the vice president,
Speaker, Chief Justice.
The Speaker, and then the Chief Justice. So if whatever is in him and the Vice President are not available, The Speaker would take over. If it's not available, it's the Chief Justice, etc. None of those people were elected into office.
Yeah.
So if you want a system where if you go, somebody takes over from you, you form a ticket, like in the American system.
In America,
if the president, vice president, if the president is not available, the vice president takes over.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Look, Senegal, in 1980, President Senghor decided to leave.
Yes.
He left, and he had, I think, 2 or 3 years left on his term. And Abdou Diouf continued.
Yeah.
A technical guy who was never elected at any point in his life was elevated to the position of president. Thank God he happened to be a very virtuous person, and he did good things and left, even though his achievements are there to be contested or not. But fortunately, he was a good person. He could have been quite the opposite. It could have gone wrong. And Senegal changed that. Said now, if president goes, there is an election. The British system you mentioned has it. But the difference is that the British system is a parliamentary democracy. It's a party that's elected, not a person. So the leader of that party takes over.
Yes.
So when he goes or she goes, the next person appointed by the party takes over.
Chairman takes over, Prime Minister. Yes, so you said the elephant in the room, yes, maybe the term limit thing.
Yes.
Although President Barrow had always said he is committed to term limits.
Yes.
So the problem is, when does it start? That's the problem.
Yeah, if I can just say something about that.
Yeah.
Because you see, the term limit is a debate that will drag on forever if we let them. And they're talking of retroactivity. The law doesn't retroact. The law does not retroact in most cases. But if you look at the case of the Constitution, as we say, a famous British constitutionalist said it, Parliament can do everything except change a man into a woman.
Yes.
Right? Let alone the people. We can determine what we do.
People are not changing themselves. Both sexes, right?
Yeah, okay. That's another debate for another day. But if you look at this, the president does not have a third term guaranteed to him. So he does not have something we're taking away from him. If you take a right away from somebody, the law retroacts when we can give a benefit. It's when you take away a right, you can say he cannot retroact.
I see.
Okay? So, and here we're not taking away a right. He is not guaranteed a second or third or fourth term in office by the Gambian people. And the Gambian people have the right to say, we are not going to give anybody a third or fourth term, as we expressed several years before the change of government, which led to Jammeh leaving. And when Jammeh left, it was expressed clearly again by everybody, including Barrow himself. And the Constitutional Review Commission has put that in the draft. So these are issues we should put behind us now and move forward.
Exactly.
That is the best thing for the country. Do not try to do things that are going to create chaos and confusion in the country, and then we blame afterwards the people. And just to conclude on that, when we see that sort of thing happening, and what do you see? The ECOWAS Commission rush into producing a communique thanking him. Say, what is happening in ECOWAS?
I had the Gambia for all blaming them for
premature this is what has happened
congratulations.
all over in Benin, in Burkina Faso, in Niger, in Mali, in Guinea. And they end up backtracking every single time and humiliating themselves.
Is it because, is it because the ECOWAS Commission president is a Gambian?
Yeah, a Gambian who cannot divorce himself from Gambian internal politics for various reasons, which I wouldn't even mention here. But we all know.
Okay.
So he should stay away from being so involved in national politics and take his international rules seriously. And the integrity and respect of the ECOWAS Commission president is dwindling because of all the wrong decisions he's taking. That's unfortunate.